For over 10 years, I couldn't get my productions to sound how I wanted, so I buried myself in online tutorials trying to figure out why, and even having some of the same tools as other producers and mixers I envied, my productions weren't coming even close. I've heard the term referencing get thrown around, and I thought I was referencing the right way myself, but I was totally wrong, and over time developed a referencing system that would help me produce any desired result. I'm excited to announce that you can now use this same system yourself in our new course, The Magical Guide to Referencing. This gives you the exact framework I've used and successfully taught hundreds of students through the years. If you're ready to stop chasing your mixing tail in circles and ready to understand any mix you hear to replicate those same results for yourself, you can find a link to the Magical Guide to Referencing in the description wherever you're listening. See you there, my friends. Hello and welcome to Working in Music Sucks. My name is John Maciel, and for almost 2 decades I've been working in the audio recording industry. I've worked with producers and mixers like Bo Rochelle, Joey Sturgis, and Josh Newell, and countless others on records with bands like Era, Census Fell, and Moose Blood. And along this journey, I've also worked with 2 of the biggest music educational companies where I helped thousands of aspiring engineers achieve their dreams of making music production a fulfilling full-time career. But as great as that sounds, to be honest, the first 10 years of working in music sucked. I started this podcast to talk about what sucks about working in music so others like myself who love music production and want to wake up every morning fulfilled and driven to making records people love can do just that. Working in music sucks, but with what we talk about on this podcast, it doesn't have to any longer. If that sounds like your cup of coffee, then you're in the right place, my friends. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode. And today's, we're going to talk about something that isn't the first thing you think of when it comes to audio production, but is probably the lifeblood or the pipeline that keeps things flowing in any audio business. And it's also the hardest for a lot of audio engineers to do because it requires a skill set that is not native to how we operate. Most of us, I feel really confident saying that most audio engineers I've met are in some degree an introvert that don't like to put themselves out there more. That's why, it takes a very special type of personality to like sitting in front of a computer for hours on end, tinkering with like frequencies and compressors. Like if you think about what we do, it's just such a weird like wiring that has to happen in our brains for us to find this fun and moving and exciting. I know a lot of people, when friends have come over and they're watching me work, they're like, oh, that's cool. And they're just like, so you just do this for like 8 hours? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. You know what I mean? It's just such a strange thing. But I wouldn't have it any other way. But we love being in solitude, working on things, or with 1 or 2 people in a band and recording things. But not being around a lot of people for most of us is like the greatest thing ever. You mean we can do something we love and not be around people all day? But there's one skill we all need to have and develop. And as an extremely introverted person, it's been a hard skill to develop. And it takes time. But this skill has led me to so many opportunities, so much work. And I would say if your skill set is like at a 5, but you develop this skill we're going to discuss on this episode to like an 8, developing this skill is probably more important than developing that 5 skill set to 6, to be honest. Because I've seen a lot of people who are mediocre in skill, but their networking abilities just take them through the roof, and some people have to play catch up with them because their networking is just fantastic. Now, when you hear the word networking, I know when I would first hear it, I'd be like, ugh. It's like going to a convention and talking to a bunch of business people. Ugh, I don't want any of that in my life. But that's shame on me because that's not what networking is actually. I hate the word networking, but it is what it is. Unless someone can come up with a better word for it, we're just going to go with networking. So networking, all it means is you're building a collaborative network of people that all mutually understand that we want to help one another. And we want to make sure that essentially, everyone's thinking about how do I bring value to this relationship? And if it's right, a lot of people get into networking and they think it's all about me, what's in it for me. That is not networking. That is just hustling and conning
at its simplest form. Networking is I go to an event. I go to, let's say, NAMM. And I notice that there's this company I want to work with. So before I even approach this company, I start doing some homework. What are their socials like? What are areas that I'm good at that they don't seem to be doing too well at? So for example, I'm decent at making YouTube videos and content. And I see they don't have much content. So a way for me to network would be to go talk to them, kind of figure out where their heads are at, what their grooves at, what their goals are, and if what my value is aligns with that. And sometimes, depending on the season that you or another person or business are at, they may not align at that moment. But building on that rapport and that relationship in that moment so that we know who we are, that is the essence of networking. It's opening your network to an opportunity that may present itself in the future and or never, but maybe the opportunity isn't for you. Maybe it's for a friend that you know that you can hey, I know this person that needs this help with this, that. Let me give you a warm intro. That is networking. Networking is mutually finding ways to bring value without expectation to another relationship, if and when appropriate and possible. That is the proper way to network. When you let's put the same scenario. When you go to a convention, you're like, I want this, this, and this. How do I get this company to give me this, this, and this? All you are doing is hustling and conning. Because what happens when they do give you the yes, but then you don't meet their standard or expectation of what they want before you even have the conversation of what their desires are, what they're trying to do? Well, now you've created a relationship that has some dents in it that takes some melding, but maybe they don't have the time or patience or even care enough about you to do that. And maybe the same way for you. So now, yeah, you may have gotten a short win, but that relationship's gone, right? It's a very transactional, short way of thinking. Now, that's an extreme example in terms of gears. Now, with people, with other audio engineers, where networking helps is something I like to call overflow. And this is something I personally had happen. I was fortunate enough, to get busy in my career. And it got to a point where I just couldn't do certain projects because I just didn't have the time. I was at capacity and I didn't have time to train someone under me to say yes to the work, have them do part of it, and then I finish it up and then send it back. Like, I didn't have that capacity and bandwidth. So what I did was I had a network of friends who were good at certain things that I would trust to do on my own projects. And I would say, hey, I am not available, but I have someone I can refer you to that I would trust to do this without any issues. And 9 times out of 10, they would say refer. And then I do the warm intro and then boom, they would be picking up those gigs. And now that referee now knows they have me and someone else. And then vice versa. My friends would get super busy and slammed and be like, hey, can I refer this project to you? And I would be open and be like, oh yeah, right now I have nothing. That would really help. And now I'm working on a project. Networking isn't just about a give and take. It's all looking out for your community and people around you that you can truly trust and want to build these relationships with. Because networking is also so much on staying engaged and communicative and understanding where everyone's head's kind of at, keeping up to date with people. It's just not going to a convention and just like exchanging business cards, which is such a prehistoric, that's a whole nother episode. So now you're asking, okay, cool. I can't go to NAMM, or I don't know any audio engineers. How do I do this? Well, luckily we live in the age of internet, and it's really, really easy if you go looking to find people to build your network with. So for example, there's I would say there's too many audio engineering Facebook groups, but go join every single one of them that you can find and just lurk, kind of see what kind of conversations people are having in there. And find the ones that are the most positive, where you see people tagging other people saying, thanks for this referral, thanks for this this person helped me out with this and that. Look for the ones where people are actually having meaningful relationships, because those are going to be the environments where you can go and network with. And there's also Reddit. There's also Gearspace. There's TikTok. There's YouTube. Any social media platform. Whatever comes native to you, go find groups and communities of people in those areas, and then find the ones who are doing it. And, like any other relationship, you just slowly start engaging with them. And over time, a very natural friendship will take place. And that is where the gold is at, is building those relationships with like-minded people who are not only going to help, possible gigs in the future, but the support system, the system to help you stay on top of your game, to keep you pushing forward when this game gets really, really tough. And it gets really tough all the time. And it's very lonely. It's very isolating. Again, I joked about how we're in a studio by ourselves all the time. And sometimes it just, that can get kind of like lonely. You want to, not many people in your real day-to-day can understand the stress, the self-talk of it's never gonna happen, or what are you doing? The self-doubt that just comes naturally as anyone who's in any creative field. Self-doubt is just such a huge thing. But when you have a community and a network of friends who can support you and help you, all of a sudden that stuff, you're going to have your moments, but it doesn't seem the mountain is not as tall when you look at it with a bunch of friends that are going to support you and help you get up and over it. And that's just, one simple way to view how to get started into networking. Now let's talk about if you're in a situation where you're taking yourself to in-person events, meetups, NAMM, AES, things of that nature, concerts, going to meet local bands at local shows. There's a couple things to keep in mind. Now, one of them, or a couple of them actually, are really hard to do, especially if you're going by yourself. I really encourage you to go by yourself. And you might be like, what? But the reason to go for it, because if you can pull this stuff off by yourself, you'll develop a confidence, and over time, it does become easier. Now, it is terrifying. I know the first many times, even now, when I go out and I'm by myself and I have to network, I always get I don't want to say pre-sweats, but it's just I get moist. It's really weird. It's not super sweaty, but it's just my temperature's running because I'm about to put myself into uncomfortable positions that I don't want to be in, but I know they're detrimental to my career and what I want to build for myself. So if I don't do it, no one else is going to. So a couple things to keep in mind is always be aware. Over time, it gets easier, but always be aware of your posture, how you're presenting yourself. Are you hands in your pockets? Are you hunched over? Are you kind of looming over? Pull your shoulders back, open your chest, take your hands out of your pocket. It's going to feel weird to have your hands out of your pocket, but if you just keep them out of your pocket, all of a sudden you'll forget about it out of nowhere. Keep your chest open, kind of keep your head high. And the next one's going to be really uncomfortable, but I have what's called as a resting bitch face, which means just I always look unhappy or serious. When I'm not, just my regular default face always looks that way, but that's not how I feel inside, but that's just a projection. That's just what people see. So I kind of do this smirk thing where if you go into the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror and do a smile and then just back it off 80%. And you kind of have that weird, it looks like a weird smirk. Do that. Figure out what your smirk looks like. And then open your top, pull up your top lip so a little bit of your teeth showing. So it looks like you have a very, very faint smile. Very, very faint. It's going to feel really foreign. You're going to feel kind of stupid. But trust me, if you can, if you have a commute to the studio or to work, look yourself in the rearview mirror, do the smile, bring it down, pull up your lips so you have a little bit of a smile. Kind of like if you're watching something funny on your phone and you're about to laugh, but you have that smile and you're waiting for that laugh. You're anticipating. You want that. and just hold that for a 5 to 10 minute drive and start letting your face muscles know what that feels like when you're doing it, so that as you train yourself to do this look when you're at networking events, you can feel like, oh, my face has changed to my normal face, and you reset, and then you change it back up again. People who smile are just approachable. It's body language. It's how us as humans identify. If you ever walk into a restaurant or a coffee shop or anything, when you're greeted with someone who has a smile or gives you kind of a smile or a half smile, you just feel better than when you walk in and someone just like serious face, right? It's just more welcoming. What you're doing is you're creating a situation, or you're presenting yourself in a way to where you're approachable, so that when you go and introduce yourself, like, hey, what's going on? My name is John. These are some really cool preamps. Tell me a little bit more, like what makes these a little bit different? Like, what are you guys excited about with these tools? And you're doing with this with a little smile. They're genuinely going to be enthusiastic because they think you're enthusiastic, even though you're training yourself to make this approachable. Now, the next one's going to be really, really tough. Tougher than that one. You're like, how can anything be tougher than what you just discussed? And I'm so sorry, because this next one, I wish I didn't have to do. It's just like weird to me. It's like almost, it's intimate, even though it's just a normal thing. But to me, it feels like super intimate. So I always hate doing it. But learning to be comfortable with making eye contact. Some of you probably listen to like, oh, hell no. But seriously, you have this half smile going, and if someone's talking to you, you might want to like look at them for a second, look away, and then look at the gear, and then look back at them. Maintain eye contact. And then when they point to something or trying to show you, that's when you turn your head to look, because you want them to know that you're engaged in the conversation. So you're going to look at whatever they're pointing at. And if they're not, you're maintaining eye contact. And you're letting them know that you're confident and you're present in this conversation. Now, don't do like stalkery big eye just staring at them. Like, listen. And if there's like a part where you can laugh or like a haha, then like those are natural cues to like, okay, I can look away now to reset. You don't want to just stare the whole time like you're Wednesday Addams, just staring them dead in the face the entire conversation. There needs to be some fluidity to it. But you want to maintain eye contact and you want to be comfortable. Now, the easiest way to get comfortable with being uncomfortable about this is literally find a nice like park or walking trail where people walk, and make eye contact with them before you're walking past them, like a good 30 seconds before they're about to walk past you. Just make eye contact, smile. Hi, how you doing? And then after you walk past you reset. The 30 seconds is going to feel like eternity. It's going to feel like forever. But it's not about the other person. They might be like, that guy was a total freak. You just keep walking. Maybe you never see them again. But you're practicing getting comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling. And then once you walk past them, you're done. You're like, oh God, I got through it. Oh my goodness. Like, I can live. Right? It's like the worst thing. Or maybe do it for 15 seconds when you're first starting. But go to a place or to a grocery store, somewhere where it's not creepy, but it's appropriate, where you want to make your presence known. That's why I said the hike or a walking path. And make eye contact with strangers and just keep walking. After you pass them, say, hi, how you doing? And then keep going. So when you're in a situation where you have to network and you have to do eye contact, it's a lot easier for you, because you're practicing. You're doing the reps. It's just like when you pull up a session and you're EQing, you're practicing training your ears how to hear certain frequencies, so that when it comes time to EQ, you're not worried about it. You're like, I got this. I know exactly what I need to do. I know what frequency to kill. No problem. But that didn't come at the first, try. You had to practice. You had to put in the time to get comfortable with the skill that you're developing. And this is no different. The next one that I know it would stump me a lot in my very early journey of networking, that stops people from approaching other people. And it's when someone seems like a person of status, or they do have status, or they're somewhere where you want to be and you're not quite there yet. It could be a celebrity, a mentorish type figure, a YouTuber, a podcaster, anything. You see this person and you're just like, oh my God, they're so much further ahead of me. I am too scared or nervous to go talk to them. You need to remember one thing, and one thing only. they also too take a shit or get the shits. Poop. Yes. As juvenile as this is, they themselves also get sick and have to go take nasty shits. Why am I saying this disgusting thing? To humanize them. You need to humanize this person and realize that is a person. Now, the work they've put in to get to a certain tenure, the skill set that they have, that's great. But you have to remember, they're human too. They're flawed. They might not have cool personalities. That's not saying be really careful about meeting your heroes. It's 100% true. I've met many of my heroes, and I wish I would not later looking back, but it is what it is. But they're people. They make mistakes. And the reason I went to the poop thing is because they're full of shit too. Right? It's a good joke. I thought it was a good joke. All right. But don't put people on a pedestal. You yourself bring value into a relationship just by being you, by being hungry, by loving the same thing that they love. That shouldn't be the thing that is all your relationships about, but that can be the connection you need. Maybe they love Super Nintendo or Nintendo, and so do you, and that's the new way you bond. But you never would have known that if you would have not gone over the fact that, oh my God, they're this famous mixer, or this famous guitar player, or this videographer, or this photographer. I can't go say hello to them or whatever. If it's appropriate and you're not being weird about it, and it's in a situation where it's allowed, just go and introduce yourself. Hey, I just wanted to say that really love your advice. Your this, and this that you spoke about helped me personally with my own struggles that I had with this, and this, and this. And I just thought it was fantastic. And I had to come over here and just tell you so you at least knew that there was one person out there that this and like you doing this one thing touched and helped. So thank you. And a lot of times people aren't used to conversations. Believe it or not, most conversations don't go about someone thanking someone else and then recognizing to them, you may not hear from someone else, but I want you to know that your blah, blah, blah did help me. That honestly isn't a common conversation that most people get. So that already, they're like, oh, like, thank you so much. Like, that was a fun event, blah, blah, blah. Before you know it, they're more engaged in the conversation because you allowed yourself to be a little bit more open and vulnerable in that opening, but you had the courage to go up and talk to them. So don't put everyone on a pedestal. They're people too. You know, they make mistakes. They shit. They're people. And remember that, because if you're always thinking of like, oh my God, I can't approach this person because of whatever that, you're going to close yourself off to so many opportunities and friendships. One of my really close friends is fantastic at this. Like, he doesn't care who anybody is. He'll just approach people and talk to them. And then afterwards he'll be like, yeah, like I know they were this person, but I just like just because they're this person or this level of success does not mean I'm going to like them and want to hang out with them. So I went to go meet them and see if they're cool people. And the ones who aren't, I just thank them and I move on with my day. That is so powerful. You don't have to have a relationship with everyone, but you need to have the courage to just go and try to curate natural relationships with people. Don't just close yourself off because someone seems at a certain status or tenure. And always have an exit strategy. So you build up all this courage to go and talk to people you don't want to talk to because you're so scared, like moi, but always have an exit strategy, because there is nothing worse than being in a conversation and then after the conversation has devolved, it's over, you're just kind of lingering, and then you become a lingerer. Oh, it's the worst feeling. And anyone who's been in the situation where you're just like standing there still and there's another conversation with two other people happening and you're just kind of like, it's the worst. Oh, I just had memories come back to me about being that person. So always have an exit strategy. So now you're like, oh man, what's an exit strategy? Okay, so there's two ways I've managed my whole life to get out of these type of situation conversations. I know the conversation where I'm like, hey, by the way, I need to, if you're not in a bar area, or hey, do you know where the restrooms are at? Yes. They're here, there, they're there. And then they tell you, and then you're like, okay, nice talking to you, thank you. And then you head out. Or I'm kind of hungry. Do you know where I can? Do you know where like to get a snack is? Like find natural reasons of like why you. Hey, I'm parched. Do you know where I can buy some water by chance, or a water fountain is? Oh yeah, it's over there. Or no, maybe there's something over there, and then they'll direct you away, and then all of a sudden you're out of the conversation naturally. Find human ways to get out of conversations that naturally allow you to get out, because there's nothing worse than just standing there and just all of a sudden you're like, all right, it's cool talking to you, and then you walk away. You spend all that time to build the confidence to go there, curate a conversation, and then the way you get out of it is kind of counter how you got into it. Like the confidence factor is gone. So if you end it in a way to get out to where you know where you're going next, it seems like you're control of how you hold your conversation yourself in situations to network and things like that. It's a perception thing. And also to help you know that you're not stuck there forever. Because a lot of people get into conversations with networking and then they're like, how do I get out? How do I get out? I'm stuck. I know I have many, many times. And it took a long time until one of my friends actually was the one who taught me these exit strategy skills, because I was lingering, and I remember them pulling me to the side and be like, yo, why do you do that? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, why do you always linger after a conversation's over? Like, you just kind of stand there and it's awkward. And is it like you don't know? Or I was like, I don't know how to get out. And he's like, oh, well, here's how I do it. And I literally stole it from him, and I've been doing it from ever since. And now hopefully you can steal them from me and you can do it moving forward. So networking, vastly important. Do not underestimate it. It's a skill that you really, really need to work on. Put yourself into situations where you have to have weird, I shouldn't say weird, like conversations with people that you would really wish you wouldn't have. Grocery store, asking the person where to find something. I'm blanking on situations where you can make stuff like that happen, like going to a farmer's market, asking questions about like the products, and then spending like $2 to buy like honey or something like that. Like there's ways to put yourself in these situations where you can practice essentially, and practice the skill set, and practice how you hold and conduct yourself in places where no one knows you. So it's like if you fail, it's okay, because no one knows you. There's no stakes. The only stakes are the ones that you have inside of you, but outwardly there's nothing there. So hopefully now you're thinking differently about networking. You're understanding the importance of it. You're ready to go out there and practice it. So until next time, remember, working in music sucks, but with what we talked about in this episode today, hopefully it doesn't have to. So until next time, friends, later.